The grand ballroom of Elijah Blackwell's mansion sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Tonight marked the 5th anniversary of Blackwell Technologies going public, and Elijah had spared no expense. Ice sculptures shaped like the company logo melted, slowly on tables laden with delicacies from around the world. A string quartet played softly in one corner, though few guests paid attention to the music. Elijah stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, swirling amber liquid in a crystal tumbler. At 38, he was at the height of his powers. A self-made billionaire whose facial recognition software had revolutionized security systems worldwide. Business magazines called him a visionary. Society pages labeled him one of the country's most eligible bachelors. Yet as he watched his 200 guests mingling and networking, he felt oddly empty. Spectacular party, Eli. Thomas Chen, his chief financial officer, clapped him on the shoulder. The board members are impressed. Stock will probably jump 5 points on Monday just from the goodwill you've generated tonight. Elijah forced a smile. That's the goal, isn't it? Thomas didn't notice the flatness in his voice. Absolutely. Oh, Senator Wilson is looking for you. Wants to discuss that new privacy bill. With a nod, Elijah downed his drink and handed the empty glass to a passing server. The young woman, dark-haired, petite, wearing the catering company's black and white uniform, gave him a quick professional smile before disappearing into the crowd. Another face he wouldn't remember tomorrow. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of strategic conversations and hollow laughter. Elijah moved through the room on autopilot, shaking hands, making promises, deflecting questions about his personal life. Yes, Blackwell Technologies was expanding into Europe next quarter. No, he hadn't found time for a vacation in 3 years. Yes, the company was committed to ethical AI development. No, there wasn't a special someone in his life right now. By 11 o'clock, his face hurt from smiling, and the weight of pretense sat heavy on his shoulders. He excused himself from a circle of investors and made his way to the bar for another drink, his 4th of the night. Mr. Blackwell, your speech is scheduled in 15 minutes, his assistant Diane reminded him, materializing at his side with her ever-present tablet. I've prepared some talking points about the new research division. Elijah waved her off. I know what to say, Diane. I've been giving these speeches since before you worked for me. She pressed her lips together but didn't argue. Of course. The lighting team is ready whenever you are. When she left, Elijah loosened his bow tie slightly and surveyed the room. The crowd had thinned somewhat, but the core group, investors, tech journalists, political allies, remained. All people who wanted something from him or had something he needed. None who knew the real Elijah beyond the carefully crafted public image. His gaze landed on the magnificent Steinway grand piano in the far corner of the ballroom. He'd purchased it 3 years ago for an obscene amount of money, a limited edition created to celebrate the company's 165th anniversary. The piano was a masterpiece of craftsmanship with its polished ebony exterior and gold-plated hardware. Elijah had taken lessons as a child, but never progressed beyond intermediate level. Now the instrument sat unused except when he hired professional pianists for events like tonight. Something about the neglected piano bothered him suddenly. Like him, it was valuable but hollow, meant for show rather than substance. Impulsively, Elijah walked toward the piano, drink in hand. A few heads turned to watch him. The quartet, noticing his approach, faltered slightly before continuing their Mozart piece. He ran his fingers along the smooth wood. A staff member had recently dusted it, probably one of the cleaning crew who came in every morning. The thought of someone carefully tending to an instrument that never fulfilled its purpose made his chest tighten. Beautiful, isn't it? A woman's voice came from behind him, Veronica Hatfield, tech columnist and occasional dinner companion. Rumor has it you paid 7 figures for that piano. Elijah shrugged. It's just a thing. A very expensive thing, she countered with a playful smile. Do you ever play it? Not really. Such a waste, she said, sipping her champagne. My mother would say objects like this need to be used to keep their spirit alive. Something about her words, or perhaps the alcohol warming his blood, triggered a reckless impulse. Without planning it, Elijah turned and raised his voice above the murmur of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen. The room didn't quiet immediately. Elijah climbed the 2 steps to the small platform where the piano sat and tried again, louder this time. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Gradually, the buzz of conversation died down. The string quartet stopped playing. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him. Curious, expectant, calculating. Diane hurried toward him, mouthing, "Not yet," but he ignored her. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Elijah began, his voice carrying across the hushed room. "We've had 5 incredible years as a public company, and your support has been instrumental in our success." Polite applause followed. Somewhere in the back, a photographer's camera flashed. "I was just admiring this piano," Elijah continued, patting the gleaming surface. "Cost me more than my first apartment building. But here's the thing. I can barely play chopsticks on it." A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. They were eating it up, the billionaire making self-deprecating jokes. So relatable, so humble. The champagne buzzed in Elijah's veins. He was tired of being predictable. "This piano deserves better," he declared. "It deserves someone who can make it sing. So I'm making an offer tonight." He paused for dramatic effect, enjoying the confused looks on the faces before him. "Anyone in this room who can play Chopin's Ballad No. 1 perfectly on this piano, I'll marry you on the spot." Stunned silence fell over the ballroom, followed by uncertain laughter. Was he joking? Had the pressure finally cracked the famous Elijah Blackwell? Veronica raised an eyebrow. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely," Elijah replied, though he hadn't known he was going to say it until the words left his mouth. "Chopin's Ballade No. 1, beginning to end, no mistakes." The absurdity of the challenge sparked a buzz of excitement. Guests began whispering to each other. Phones appeared as people discreetly recorded the moment. Tomorrow's headlines practically wrote themselves. Tech billionaire's bizarre marriage proposal, or Blackwell's piano challenge shocks elite gathering. Diane was frantically signaling from the side of the room, drawing her finger across her throat in the universal, cut-it-out gesture. Elijah pretended not to see her. "Any takers?" he asked, spreading his arms wide. After a moment of hesitation, a young man in a tailored suit stepped forward. "I took lessons for 10 years, Mr. Blackwell. I'd like to try." Elijah gestured grandly toward the piano bench. "Be my guest." The crowd parted as the volunteer, the son of a banking executive, if Elijah remembered correctly, approached the piano. The young man sat down, flexed his fingers, and began to play. It became clear within 30 seconds that he wasn't up to the challenge. The ballade was one of Chopin's most technically demanding compositions, requiring not just skill but emotional depth. The banker's son hit wrong notes and simplified difficult passages. After 2 minutes of painful listening, Elijah raised his hand. "Thank you for your bravery," he said kindly. "But I'm afraid I remain a bachelor." More laughter from the audience, who were now fully invested in the unexpected entertainment. 3 more guests tried their luck. A venture capitalist's daughter who played competently but gave up halfway through, a retired music professor who did admirably until fumbling the coda, and a young software engineer from Elijah's own company who could barely pick out the melody. "No wedding tonight, it seems," Elijah announced, feeling lighter than he had all evening. The absurd challenge had transformed the stuffy gala into something almost genuine. People were smiling, not the plastic smiles of networking, but real amusement. Thomas sidled up to him as the crowd began to disperse into smaller groups again. "Bold move," he muttered. "PR will have a field day with this." "Let them," Elijah replied. "At least something interesting happened at one of these events." "You know the internet will take this and run with it," Thomas warned. "We'll have pianists showing up at headquarters by Monday." Elijah laughed. "They're welcome to try. No one's going to meet the challenge anyway." What Elijah didn't notice was the young woman in the catering uniform standing in the doorway to the kitchen, watching the scene unfold with intense interest. Sophia Reyes had paused while carrying a tray of empty glasses, her dark eyes fixed on the magnificent piano. Unlike the wealthy guests who had attempted the piece, Sophia knew Chopin's Ballade No. 1 intimately. Every note, every nuance, every emotional crescendo. As she pushed through the swinging door into the kitchen, Sophia couldn't help but smile to herself. The billionaire's careless joke had awakened something she'd tried to bury for years, a dream she'd abandoned out of necessity, not choice. Little did Elijah Blackwell know that the challenge he'd issued in jest would soon change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Sophia Reyes balanced a tray of dirty champagne flutes as she weaved through the kitchen of Elijah Blackwell's mansion. The catering staff buzzed around her, everyone eager to finish cleaning up after the billionaire's extravagant party. "Can you believe what happened out there?" Luis, one of the bartenders, whispered as he passed by. "The guy offers marriage to anyone who can play piano. These rich people live in another world." Sophia smiled but said nothing. She'd been thinking about that piano since the moment she first saw it earlier that evening. While setting up before guests arrived, she'd noticed the magnificent Steinway in the corner of the ballroom, its presence commanding even among the crystal chandeliers and priceless artwork. "Hey, daydreamer." Marta, the catering supervisor, snapped her fingers. "We don't have all night. Finish those glasses and help with the dessert trays." "Sorry," Sophia mumbled, quickening her pace. At 30, Sophia was older than most of the catering staff. Most were college students picking up extra cash, but for her, this was one of 3 jobs she juggled to make ends meet. During the day, she cleaned offices downtown. On weekends, she helped at her uncle's corner store. And for special events like tonight, she served the wealthy at their celebrations. None of her co-workers knew about her past, about the music that still lived inside her. They didn't know that when she was 6 years old, her mother, a former piano teacher from Veracruz, had started teaching her on a second-hand upright piano crammed into their tiny apartment. They couldn't see the hours she'd spent practicing while other kids played outside, or the competition she'd won throughout her teenage years. They definitely didn't know that Chopin's Ballade No. 1 had been her signature piece, the one that had earned her a scholarship offer to a prestigious music conservatory 11 years ago, an opportunity she'd had to decline when her mother fell ill. Medical bills piled up and someone needed to care for her younger brothers. Sophia returned to the ballroom with a fresh stack of clean napkins. The party had dwindled to about 50 guests, mostly gathered in small groups, their voices now relaxed with late-night intimacy and expensive alcohol. Elijah Blackwell was nowhere to be seen. The piano, however, still stood in the corner, illuminated by a single spotlight. Sophia's fingers tingled with familiar longing. "Almost done in here?" Marta appeared beside her. Sophia nodded. "Just need to wipe down the tables near the windows." "Good. We need to be out by 1 a.m. The cleaning crew handles the rest tomorrow." Sophia bit her lip. "Actually, I am the cleaning crew. I'm on the schedule for morning duty." Marta checked her clipboard. "Right, I forgot you work for both companies." "Well, lucky you. Double the pay, double the fun." After Marta walked away, Sophia moved through the room, efficiently clearing the last of the dishes and wiping down surfaces. All the while, her attention kept drifting to the piano. Being alone with it tomorrow morning wasn't enough. She needed to play it tonight, while the memory of Blackwell's challenge was still fresh. By midnight, the last guests were leaving. The catering team packed up their equipment with practiced speed. Sophia helped load the van, carried out the final trash bags, and watched as her co-workers drove away, leaving her alone in the service entrance. She was supposed to lock up and return in 7 hours for the morning cleaning shift. Instead of heading to the bus stop, Sophia slipped back inside the mansion. The security system hadn't been activated yet. That was scheduled for 1 a.m., giving vendors time to clear out. She moved silently through the darkened hallways, her heart pounding against her ribs. This was crazy. She could lose both her jobs if caught. But something stronger than reason pulled her forward. 11 years of buried dreams, of fingers that still practiced on tabletops and imaginary keyboards while riding the bus. The ballroom was eerily quiet when she entered, moonlight streaming through the tall windows. The piano waited like a sleeping giant. Sophia approached it slowly, running her hand along its polished surface. Even in the dim light, she could see it was immaculate. Not a single fingerprint or dust particle marred its perfection. She sat on the bench and adjusted it to her height. The keys felt cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. Sophia closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and began to play. The first notes of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 floated into the empty ballroom. Softly at first, tentative, like a question, her fingers felt stiff, unpracticed. It had been almost 2 years since she'd played on an actual piano. The last time was when Mrs. Abernathy, an elderly woman whose apartment she cleaned, had invited her to try the old Baldwin in her living room. But as Sophia continued playing, something awakened inside her. Her hands remembered what her conscious mind had filed away. The music flowed more freely, building in complexity and emotion. She forgot where she was, forgot about her tired feet and aching back from hours of serving drinks and clearing tables, forgot about the overdue electric bill waiting at home and the leak in her bathroom ceiling. For these precious minutes, she was just Sophia and the music, the Sophia who might have been, in another life with different circumstances. As the piece progressed to its more technically demanding sections, her confidence grew. The Steinway responded to her touch with a richness of tone she'd never experienced before. This wasn't just a piano. It was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, capable of expressing every nuance of emotion Chopin had embedded in his composition. Sophia's body swayed with the music as her fingers danced across the keys. The crescendos and diminuendos, the complex runs and delicate arpeggios, everything flowed from some deep well of memory. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she didn't stop playing. This moment was too precious, too rare to interrupt. She was so lost in the music that she didn't notice the figure standing in the doorway until she reached the final gentle notes of the piece. As the sound faded into silence, she opened her eyes and froze. Elijah Blackwell leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed over his chest, tie undone and hanging loosely around his neck. His expression was unreadable in the dim light. Sophia shot to her feet, nearly knocking over the piano bench. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Blackwell, I shouldn't be here." "Don't apologize," he said quietly, stepping into the room. "That was extraordinary." Heat rushed to Sophia's face. She smoothed down her black uniform dress, acutely aware of how out of place she was. "I'll leave right away. Please don't call my supervisors." "You work for the catering company?" Elijah moved closer, studying her with open curiosity. "Yes, sir. And the cleaning service. I'm supposed to be back in the morning." His eyebrows rose slightly. "2 jobs here? Do I pay that badly?" Despite her nervousness, Sophia couldn't help but smile. "It's not about the pay. It's about the hours. I need flexibility for my family." Elijah nodded slowly, then gestured toward the piano. "Where did you learn to play like that?" "My mother taught me when I was little. She was trained in classical piano back in Mexico. And Chopin's Ballade No. 1? That's not exactly beginner material." Sophia looked down at her hands that cleaned toilets and scrubbed floors but could also create something beautiful. "I practiced it for a competition when I was 19. It was my favorite piece." Elijah was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving between Sophia and the piano. Finally, he said, "Do you know what I announced at the party tonight?" "Yes," she admitted. "Everyone was talking about it in the kitchen." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "And you came back to play it because—" Sophia's chest tightened. Did he think she was trying to trick him? To claim some ridiculous prize? "Not because of your offer, if that's what you're asking. It's been years since I played on a real piano. A piano like this one. I couldn't resist." "Play it again," he said suddenly. "What?" "The ballade. Play it again. Please." Sophia hesitated, then slowly sat back down at the piano. Her heart was racing, but not from fear anymore. Something in his eyes, a genuine interest, a hunger for the music, made her fingers steady as she began to play once more. This time, she was conscious of her audience, but it didn't diminish her performance. If anything, having someone truly listen made the music more meaningful. She poured everything into the piece, all her lost dreams, her daily struggles, her moments of joy, her persistent hope. When she finished, the silence that followed felt charged with possibility. Sophia remained seated, hands resting lightly on the keys, afraid to break the spell. Elijah walked to the piano and leaned against it, looking down at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sophia. Sophia Reyes." "Well, Sophia Reyes," he said, his voice soft but clear in the quiet room. "You've just complicated my life considerably." "Complicated your life?" Sophia echoed. her fingers still resting lightly on the piano keys. I don't understand. Elijah ran a hand through his dark hair, messing it up in a way that made him look younger, less polished than the billionaire from the glossy magazines. That challenge I made tonight, it was a joke. At least I thought it was. I know that, Sophia said quickly. I wasn't trying to— But you did, he interrupted. You played it perfectly. Better than perfectly. He gestured toward the piano. You brought that piece to life in a way I've never heard before. Not even from professional pianists I've hired for events. Sophia felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected praise. Thank you, but really I was just having a moment with my piano. At 1 a.m, after everyone left? His tone wasn't accusatory but curious, almost amused. Sophia stood up, smoothing her uniform dress. I should go. I'm sorry for staying after hours. Don't apologize, Elijah said, moving toward one of the tall windows. Moonlight silvered his profile as he looked out at the manicured grounds. I'm not upset. I'm intrigued. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Sophia wasn't sure what to say. This wasn't a situation covered in the employee handbook. How long have you been working here? Elijah finally asked, turning back to face her. For the catering company? About 8 months. For the cleaning service, almost 2 years. And I've never noticed you before. He frowned slightly as if this fact bothered him. Sophia shrugged. That's kind of the point of service staff, isn't it? We're supposed to be invisible. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. That's a sad thought. It's just reality. Elijah moved back toward the piano, trailing his fingers along its gleaming surface. Tell me something, Sophia. If circumstances had been different, would you have pursued music professionally? The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in years, not since she'd turned down the scholarship and packed away her sheet music. Yes, she admitted quietly. It was my dream since I was little. What happened? Sophia hesitated. She didn't usually share her personal life, especially not with employers. But something about the stillness of the night, the lingering magic of the music, and Elijah's genuine interest made her continue. My mother got sick my first year of college. Cancer. We had no insurance, and my dad had left years before. Someone needed to work to take care of my younger brothers. She gave a small shrug. So I did. Elijah nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. And now? Now my brothers are grown. Mom passed away 3 years ago. I work 3 jobs to cover rent and save a little each month. Sophia smiled slightly. Life goes on, Mr. Blackwell. Elijah, he corrected. Please. An odd moment passed between them. Not uncomfortable, but charged with something Sophia couldn't quite name. She was suddenly very aware that she was alone in a billionaire's mansion in the middle of the night. The situation felt surreal. I should really go, she said again, more firmly this time. I have to be at my office cleaning job in 4 hours. Wait, Elijah said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. This has my personal number. Call me tomorrow, well, later today. Sophia stared at the card, confused. Why? Because I want to talk more. About music. About possibilities. She slipped the card into her pocket, unsure what to make of his request. I should warn you, Mr. Black, Elijah. If this is some kind of proposition, I'm not interested. To her surprise, he laughed, a genuine warm sound that softened his features. No, nothing like that. I promise. I heard something extraordinary tonight. From someone unexpected. I'm curious. That's all. Sophia nodded cautiously. I'll think about it. That's fair. He walked with her to the ballroom doors. You have keys to lock up? Yes, the service entrance. I'll set the alarm. Thank you. He paused, then added, for everything tonight. The music? It was a gift I didn't expect. Sophia felt a flutter in her chest at his words, but pushed the feeling aside. Men like Elijah Blackwell didn't enter the lives of women like her, at least not in any meaningful way. Whatever his interest, it would pass. She would remain practical. Good night, Elijah, she said simply, then turned and walked away. Sophia slept for exactly 2 hours and 45 minutes. Before her alarm blared at 5 a.m., her tiny apartment was cold. The heating worked sporadically at best, and her muscles protested as she dragged herself to the shower. As hot water finally began to flow, memories of the previous night flooded back. Had she really played Elijah Blackwell's priceless piano while he listened? Had he really given her his personal phone number? She touched the pocket of her robe where she'd transferred his business card. Yes, it was real. All of it. By 5:45, Sophia was on the bus heading downtown to clean office buildings before their occupants arrived for the workday. The familiar rhythm of vacuum cleaners, dusting cloths, and disinfectant spray filled the next 3 hours. Her co-worker Gabriella chatted about a reality TV show while they worked, but Sophia barely heard her. Her mind was elsewhere, floating between Chopin's notes and Elijah's curious gaze. At 9:30, Sophia clocked out and caught another bus, this time to Blackwell's mansion. As the cleaning service supervisor, she had her own key and security code. The other cleaners would arrive at 10, but she always came early to prep the supplies and check the schedule. She couldn't help but pause when she entered the ballroom. The piano stood exactly as she'd left it, bathed now in morning light streaming through the windows. She resisted the urge to touch it again. "You came back." Sophia jumped at the sound of Elijah's voice. He stood in the doorway wearing jeans and a simple gray t-shirt, a stark contrast to his formal attire from the party. "I work here, remember?" She gestured to her uniform. "Morning cleaning shift." "Right." He stepped into the room. "I usually don't stick around when the cleaning team comes, but today I thought I might." Sophia busied herself with unpacking the cleaning cart. "Don't mind us. We'll be quick, Sophia." Something in his tone made her look up. "I did some research this morning. Early this morning, actually. I couldn't sleep after what I heard." She froze. "Research? About what?" "About you." He held up his phone. "Social media isn't very helpful. You're practically a ghost online. But I found some old newspaper clippings. Regional piano competition winner, 3 years in a row. Scholarship offer to the conservatory." Heat rushed to Sophia's face. "You had no right to." "I know," he interrupted, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm sorry. It was inappropriate. But I was curious, and when I get curious about something, I tend to dig." Sophia crossed her arms. "So now you know my sad little story. What do you want, Elijah?" He hesitated, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I want to make you an offer." "I already told you I'm not interested in—" "No, not that," he said quickly. "A professional offer. My company is hosting a charity gala next month. We always hire musicians. I'd like to hire you." Sophia blinked in surprise. "Me to play piano at your corporate event?" "Yes, we pay well. Very well, actually." "I'm not a professional," she protested. "I haven't performed in years. Last night says otherwise." His eyes held hers steadily. "You're more than qualified, Sophia." She shook her head. "This is crazy. You heard me play one piece. One extremely difficult piece, flawlessly executed, with more emotion than most professionals manage." He stepped closer. "Look, I understand your hesitation, but this is a legitimate opportunity. Good money for one night's work doing something you clearly love." Sophia's mind raced. The idea was tempting, terrifyingly so. To play again publicly, to earn money with music instead of mops and serving trays. "I'd need to practice," she said slowly. "I don't even have a piano." Elijah's face brightened. "You can use this one anytime. I'm rarely here during the day." "That's very generous, but it's selfish, actually," he admitted with a small smile. "I want to hear you play again, and I want my guests to experience what I did." Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor, "Running late. Team will arrive 10:30, start without them." "I have to work," she said, tucking her phone away. "The others are delayed." Elijah nodded. "Think about my offer, please?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "I'll think about it." "Good." He pulled out his own phone. "What's your number?" "I'll text you the details." After an awkward moment, Sophia recited her number. Her phone buzzed again immediately with a text from an unknown number. "Elijah Blackwell here. Now you have my number too," he said, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "No pressure, but the offer stands. I should let you work now." As he turned to leave, Sophia called after him. "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" Elijah paused in the doorway. "Because when you played last night, for those few minutes, nothing else mattered. Not my company, not my responsibilities, not my image. Just the music." He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That's worth something, don't you think?" After he left, Sophia stood motionless in the center of the ballroom, cleaning supplies forgotten. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled out her phone and looked at his message. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel something dangerous: hope. 3 days passed before Sophia worked up the courage to text Elijah. 3 days of internal debates, of wondering if she was being foolish, of asking herself what a billionaire tech mogul really wanted from a cleaning lady who played piano. Her message was simple: "This is Sophia. I'd like to hear more about the charity event." His response came within minutes. "Great. Free for coffee today, 2 p.m. at Riverside Cafe?" Sophia stared at her phone. Riverside Cafe was one of those trendy downtown spots where lattes cost more than her hourly wage. Still, it was a public place, and her curiosity was stronger than her apprehension. "I can make that work," she replied. At 1:55 p.m., Sophia pushed open the cafe door, scanning the crowded space nervously. She'd changed out of her cleaning uniform into her nicest jeans and a simple blue blouse. But she still felt out of place among the well-dressed professionals tapping on laptops and having business meetings. Elijah spotted her before she saw him. He waved from a corner table, partially hidden by a leafy indoor plant. He was dressed casually in dark jeans and a navy sweater, looking more like a regular person than the billionaire from magazine covers. "You came," he said as she approached, standing to greet her. "I said I would." Sophia sat down, trying to appear more confident than she felt. "I ordered you a coffee," Elijah said, gesturing to a steaming mug. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got a vanilla latte. Is that okay?" "It's fine, thank you." Sophia wrapped her hands around the warm mug, grateful for something to do with them. "So this charity event—" "Right." Elijah pulled out his phone and opened his calendar. "It's 4 weeks from Saturday. The Children's Music Foundation. We raise money to provide instruments and lessons to kids who can't afford them." "That's actually really wonderful," Sophia said, surprised by the genuine emotion that welled up. If such a program had existed when she was growing up, maybe things would have been different. "It's one of the few corporate events I genuinely care about," Elijah admitted. "Usually I just show up, make a speech, write a check, and leave. But this one matters. What exactly would you want me to play?" "A 30-minute set during the dinner portion of the evening. Classical pieces mostly, but it's up to you. And of course, Chopin's Ballet No. 1 as the finale." His eyes lit up at the mention of the piece. The guests would love it. Sophia took a sip of her latte, buying time to gather her thoughts. "And the payment?" $5,000. She nearly choked on her coffee. $5,000? For half an hour? That's our standard rate for musicians of your caliber, Elijah said with a shrug, as if the amount was perfectly reasonable. "Plus, you'll have full access to the piano at my house for practice sessions whenever you want. I've already informed the security team." Sophia's head spun. $5,000 was more than 2 months of her combined income from all 3 jobs. It could pay off her credit card debt, fix the leak in her ceiling, maybe even start a small savings account. "This feels like a dream," she murmured, more to herself than to him. Elijah leaned forward, his expression suddenly serious. "There's something else you should know." Sophia's guard instantly went up. "Here it comes," she thought. "The catch. Someone recorded your performance attempt at the party," he said. "One of the servers, I think. Posted it online with a caption about my marriage challenge." "What?" Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. "It's gone viral." Elijah grimaced. "Over 2 million views already. People are trying to figure out who you are." Sophia's stomach dropped. "But I wasn't even at the party. I played after everyone left." "I know that, but the video shows me making the announcement." Then cuts to various guests attempting to play. The caption implies there was a winner who played perfectly. People are speculating. "Oh God." Sophia put her head in her hands. "This is exactly what I don't need. My face all over the internet. My employer's seeing it." "Your face isn't in any footage," Elijah assured her quickly. "But there's another issue. My PR team is concerned about the optics." "The optics?" Billionaire makes outlandish marriage proposal, then mysteriously hires unknown pianist for prestigious event. He sighed. "The tabloids would have a field day." Sophia felt a flash of anger. "So you're rescinding the offer?" "No, absolutely not." Elijah looked genuinely offended at the suggestion. "I want you to play at the gala. I'm just trying to be transparent about the situation." "What does your PR team suggest?" "They want me to make a statement clarifying that the marriage challenge was a joke. They want to get ahead of the story before it spins out of control." Sophia nodded slowly. "That seems reasonable." They also suggested that we should meet publicly a few times before the gala. Coffee shops, restaurants, make it clear that we have a professional relationship, nothing more. Elijah looked uncomfortable. I told them I'd discuss it with you first. Sophia stared into her coffee cup, processing everything. So let me get this straight. You want to pay me $5,000 to play piano at your charity event, but I need to be seen with you in public places first, so people don't think you're fulfilling some crazy marriage promise. When she put it that way, Elijah winced. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? A little bit, yeah. Despite everything, Sophia found herself smiling. The whole situation was absurd. Welcome to my world, Elijah said with a rueful laugh. Every action scrutinized, every decision analyzed for hidden meanings. It gets exhausting. For the first time, Sophia felt a twinge of sympathy for him. His wealth and status came with a different kind of cage than her poverty, but it was a cage nonetheless. I'll do it, she said suddenly. All of it. The gala, the public meetings, whatever your PR team thinks is necessary. Relief washed over Elijah's face. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. I'm not doing it for you, Sophia clarified. $5,000 would change my life right now. Of course. Elijah nodded. But something in his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced that money was her only motivation. They spent the next hour discussing details, practice schedules, song selections, the charity's mission. Sophia found herself relaxing as the conversation flowed naturally from music to childhood memories to favorite books. Elijah was surprisingly easy to talk to when he wasn't being Elijah Blackwell, tech billionaire. As they were leaving the cafe, Elijah touched her arm lightly. Are you free for dinner next Tuesday? There's a new restaurant in the Arts District that my PR team thought would be a good place to be seen. Sophia hesitated only briefly before nodding. Tuesday works. Text me the details? Will do. He smiled, and Sophia couldn't help noticing how his entire face transformed when he did. And Sophia, thank you again for everything. As she walked to the bus stop, Sophia's mind buzzed with contradictory emotions. Excitement about playing piano professionally, anxiety about the viral video, wariness about Elijah's true intentions, and underneath it all, a strange, unwelcome flutter whenever she remembered his smile. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Sophia continued her cleaning jobs but arranged her schedule to free up afternoons for piano practice at Elijah's mansion. The first few sessions were awkward. She felt like an intruder in the empty house, even with security's knowledge of her presence. But gradually, as her fingers reacquainted themselves with the complexities of Chopin, Liszt, and Beethoven, she began to feel at home with the magnificent Steinway. Sometimes Elijah would be there, working quietly in his home office while she practiced. Other times, she had the place to herself. They established a rhythm. He would leave coffee and snacks for her, sometimes with small notes of encouragement. She would text him feedback on pieces she was considering. Their public outings continued as planned. Dinner at the Arts District restaurant, lunch at a popular bistro, a Sunday afternoon at a crowded farmer's market. The PR strategy seemed to be working. A few entertainment blogs noted, Elijah's new musician friend, but focused more on his company's upcoming charity event than any marriage rumors. 2 days before the gala, Sophia arrived for her final practice session to find Elijah waiting in the ballroom. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and tension in his shoulders. Everything okay? She asked, setting down her sheet music. Just work stress. He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The board is pushing back on some of my proposals for the company's future direction. Sophia wasn't sure how to respond. Corporate politics were so far removed from her daily concerns of making rent and keeping the electricity on. I'm sorry to hear that, she said simply. Elijah shook his head. Don't mind me. How are you feeling about Saturday? Nervous, Sophia admitted. It's been a long time since I performed for an audience. But also excited. I'd forgotten how much I love this. You're going to be amazing. The genuine warmth in his voice made her chest tighten unexpectedly. Thank you. She busied herself arranging her music sheets, avoiding his gaze. Should I run through the program one more time? Actually, I had a different idea for today, Elijah said. If you're willing. Sophia looked up, curious. What kind of idea? Teach me how to play. He gestured toward the piano. Just something simple. I've owned this piano for 3 years and barely touched it. The request surprised her. You want a piano lesson? From me? Why not? You're clearly qualified. His eyes held a challenge, but there was vulnerability there too. Unless you don't think I can learn, Sophia laughed. Everyone can learn. It's just a matter of practice. She patted the space beside her on the bench. Come on then. Let's start with the basics. As Elijah sat next to her, Sophia felt a strange sense of role reversal. For once she was the expert and he was the novice. There was something profoundly equalizing about it. First posture, she began, demonstrating the proper way to sit. Back straight, shoulders relaxed, feet flat on the floor. Elijah mimicked her position, his shoulder brushing against hers on the narrow bench. Like this? Close, wrists a bit higher. Sophia adjusted his hands gently. There. Now let's begin with C major. The night of the charity gala arrived with a mix of clear skies and cool autumn air. Sophia stood in the small dressing room that had been provided for her, staring at her reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at her was almost a stranger, dressed in a floor-length midnight blue gown that Elijah had insisted on having specially made for her. Performance, it's part of the experience, he'd said when she protested the expense. Besides, you'll need to look the part. The dress fit perfectly, highlighting her slender frame while allowing enough movement for piano playing. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, courtesy of the stylist who had arrived at her apartment that morning. Another surprise from Elijah, a soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called, expecting one of the event staff. Instead, Elijah himself stepped into the room, handsome in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. He stopped short when he saw her, his eyes widening slightly. Wow, he said simply. Sophia felt her cheeks warm. It's the dress. And the hair. And the makeup. It's you, Elijah countered. He stepped closer, holding out a small velvet box. I brought you something. Elijah, you've done enough already. The dress, the stylist. This is different, he insisted. It's not from me, exactly. Curious, Sophia opened the box. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet with a small piano charm. It looked vintage, well-loved. It was my grandmother's, Elijah explained. She was a pianist too. Never professional, but music was her passion. She wore this every time she played. Sophia looked up, stunned by the gesture. I can't accept this. It's a family heirloom. She would have wanted another pianist to wear it. His voice was soft but firm. For good luck. Their eyes met and something unspoken passed between them. These past weeks of practice sessions, public outings, and late-night conversations over takeout food had created a connection neither had anticipated. With trembling fingers, Sophia allowed Elijah to fasten the bracelet around her wrist. Thank you, she whispered. Elijah checked his watch. Guests are arriving. I should go greet them. He hesitated, then added, You're going to be amazing, Sophia, remember that. After he left, Sophia touched the piano charm lightly. In the month since their coffee shop meeting, she'd tried to maintain emotional distance, to remember that this was a business arrangement. He needed a pianist. She needed money. Nothing more. But somewhere along the way, the lines had blurred. She'd seen glimpses of the real Elijah behind the billionaire facade, his dry sense of humor, his genuine passion for music, his moments of vulnerability when discussing his lonely childhood, or the pressures of running his company. She'd caught him looking at her sometimes during practice, with an expression that made her heart beat faster. And worse, she'd found herself looking back. Another knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. 5 minutes, Ms. Reyes, called a staff member. Sophia took a deep breath. Time to focus on the music. Everything else could wait. The ballroom of the Grand Hotel had been transformed into an elegant wonderland for the Children's Music Foundation Gala. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables adorned with white orchids and glowing candles. A small stage had been set up at one end of the room, where the magnificent Steinway from Elijah's mansion now waited. Sophia peeked from behind a curtain, her stomach tightening at the sight of hundreds of guests in formal attire. These were the elite of the city, business leaders, politicians, old money families. People who occupied a world she had only ever glimpsed while serving drinks or cleaning offices. Elijah stood at the podium now, welcoming everyone and explaining the foundation's mission. He spoke with passion about the power of music to transform young lives, to provide hope and purpose for children with limited opportunities. Music changed my life as a child, he told the crowd. It was my escape, my comfort during difficult times. Every child deserves that gift. Sophia hadn't known this about him. In all their conversations, he'd never mentioned his own connection to music beyond appreciating it. And now, Elijah continued, I'm honored to introduce an extraordinary pianist whose talent has reminded me of what music can truly be. Please welcome Sophia Reyes. Applause filled the room as Sophia walked to the piano, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the microphones would pick it up. She caught Elijah's eye as he left the stage, and his encouraging smile steadied her. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. The room fell silent, waiting. Sophia closed her eyes briefly, letting everything fade away except the music waiting inside her. Then she began to play. The first piece was Mozart, playful, elegant, the perfect opening to capture attention. She moved next to Debussy, letting the impressionistic sounds wash over the room like gentle waves. The audience remained respectfully silent, but she could feel their attention, their appreciation. For her third piece, she'd chosen Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the haunting first movement that spoke of longing and quiet beauty. As her fingers moved across the keys, Sophia allowed herself to glance up. The guests were watching intently, some with eyes closed, others leaning forward in their seats. Elijah stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, his gaze never leaving her. Sophia moved into her final selection, Chopin's Ballade No. 1, the piece that had started everything. The notes flowed from her fingers as if they had a life of their own, building from the gentle opening to the passionate crescendos. She poured everything into the performance, her lost dreams, her renewed hope, her complicated feelings for the man who had brought music back into her life. When the final notes faded away, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the room erupted in applause. People rose to their feet, clapping enthusiastically. Sophia stood and bowed, overwhelmed by the response. As she left the stage, Elijah was waiting in the wings. Without a word, he pulled her into a tight hug. That was beyond anything I could have imagined, he whispered against her hair. Sophia allowed herself to lean into him for just a moment before stepping back. Thank you for giving me this chance. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Guests approached to compliment her performance. Several inquired about private events. One woman, the director of a prestigious music school, pressed a business card into her hand. We should talk about opportunities, she said meaningfully. Talent like yours shouldn't go to waste. By midnight, the crowd had thinned. Sophia sat alone at a table, sipping water and trying to process everything that had happened. Her life had changed tonight, she could feel it. Doors that had been closed for years were suddenly opening again. May I join you? Elijah appeared beside her table, looking slightly rumpled after hours of hosting duties. Sophia nodded, and he sank into the chair beside her. We raised over $2 million tonight, he said, a record for the foundation. That's wonderful, Sophia replied sincerely. So many children will benefit. Your performance was a big part of that success. Elijah reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Speaking of which, this is yours. Sophia took the envelope, knowing it contained her payment, the $5,000 that had seemed like a fortune a month ago. There's something else I wanted to discuss, Elijah continued. The music school at the Cultural Center is looking for a piano instructor. 20 hours a week, decent salary, benefits. I mentioned your name to the director. Sophia stared at him. You want me to teach piano? I think you'd be brilliant at it. His eyes were earnest. You certainly had patience with me during our lesson. I don't have the right credentials, she protested. No formal degree. The director cares more about talent and passion than paperwork. After tonight's performance, she's eager to meet you. Elijah hesitated. It would mean quitting your cleaning jobs, of course. Sophia's mind raced with possibilities. Teaching music instead of scrubbing floors, sharing her love of piano with children, having a stable schedule, health insurance, professional respect. Why are you doing all this for me? She asked finally. Elijah looked down at his hands for a moment. When he met her eyes again, his expression was vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. Remember my ridiculous challenge at the party? About marrying anyone who could play that piece perfectly? Sophia nodded, not sure where he was going with this. It was a joke, obviously, but when I heard you play that night, he took a deep breath. Something changed for me. You reminded me of what it means to have passion, to pursue something with your whole heart despite obstacles. He reached across the table and took her hand. I'm not proposing marriage, Sophia, that would be absurd. But I am proposing possibility. Dinner without PR teams watching. Conversations not related to galas or business. A chance to see where this connection between us might lead. Sophia looked at their joined hands, his manicured and unblemished, hers with small calluses from years of manual work. Such different lives, different worlds. People would talk, she said quietly. Let them. Elijah's thumb traced circles on her palm. I'm tired of living for public opinion. Sophia thought of the journey that had brought her here, from cleaning his mansion to sitting beside him as an equal, from lost dreams to new beginnings. Perhaps this was just another impossible turn in an already unlikely story. Dinner, she agreed with a small smile. Just dinner. We'll start there. Elijah's face lit up with genuine joy. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall, dusting the city with possibilities as new and unexpected as the path opening before them.